Hello everybody. I'm just gonna check my stream real quick, make sure I'm live and I can hear my microphone. And then I'll be ready to win bag a little here. Okay, we're all good. Hello, my name is Mjollnir Man, but you may call me Austin. And today I'm going to be discussing quite a bit of stuff going on right now. So, as everybody knows, unless you're living under the most heaviest, dense boulder in the galaxy, an unarmed black man by the name of George Floyd was apprehended by 4 Minneapolis police officers and had a knee to his neck, closing his trachea for about 9 minutes, causing him to die from asphyxiation. Regardless of what the autopsy says, that's what happened. Now, everybody's going on about these riots, saying, oh, that it didn't need to happen, it was unnecessary. What do you mean it was unnecessary? The whole reason, sorry for that little tongue flick there, the whole reason this thing sparked in the first place was because Minneapolis probably wasn't even going to arrest a police officer in the first place. What did they do immediately? You got two things that the police departments usually do in terms of a wrongful death. They either A, get suspended with pay, or B, they get fired. This guy got fired, and I bet if nothing happened, this guy would have been sitting at home. We're talking about a police officer, and his 19-year career had over a dozen misconduct complaints. A dozen. He caused a 3-person car crash. He shot at 2 other people, and he killed George Floyd. And I won't stop until those other 3 police officers get arrested as well. Because in my eyes, they're accomplices to this murder and are just as guilty as Derek Chauvin. So you want to know why a riot starts? I don't give a shit what any right-winger has to say about this. Oh, but think of the businesses. I don't feel bad that AutoZone got burnt down, and I don't feel bad that Target got burnt down. I feel bad that some of the small businesses took a hit, but that's just the way of the world. And I swear, if I can find anything for some small business owner in Minneapolis, I would donate. I've donated before. I'm not going to, talk about it to like flex on how charitable I am, because that's some dumb shit. So we're set up in a situation where this guy dies and he gets fired, right? And the same people who are against the rioting and looting are the same people who go on and bitch and complain and whine about peaceful protests. They got mad and drug Colin Kaepernick through the fucking dirt for kneeling before a game. They got mad at Kobe Bryant for wearing an I Can't Breathe shirt during a warm-up at a basketball game. Oh, sports aren't the place to do that. Someone makes a statement in Congress, they flip out. No form of legitimate peaceful protest seems to be acceptable. So in my mind, I have to think that these people just want people to shut the fuck up. So if you get ignored for a decent amount of time, you're going to snap. I can't blame them. I can't blame them. All you stupid assholes going around saying, oh, Martin Luther King, he wouldn't have been for this. You obviously don't know shit. And I guarantee you, the same people that are saying this would have hated Dr. Martin Luther King's guts 50 some odd years ago. 60 some odd years ago. I don't need to hear that shit from any of you guys. There's nothing that pisses me off more than some out-of-touch conservative white guy trying to tell black people what one of their forefathers of their movement was trying to tell them. Bet you didn't know Martin Luther King had a lot of communistic views either. But, history won't teach all that. At least not in school. I sure as hell never found about the riots or the language or the unheard quote back in high school. That's a recent development for me. Looked into it. you got you got his descendants telling him on national television saying actually he would have been probably for this with the way things are going. It's just let's brush it under the bed. I don't care. These people are racist. You don't need to be outright burning crosses, wearing robes to be a racist. I live in one of the most segregated places in the freaking country. The Chicago metropolitan area. And there's still racism. You can be racist behind closed doors. And then you don't have to be racist, but you can still spread stupid rhetoric like dumb jokes that are racist. Stereotypes. What do you think happens? It gets normalized. And here's what I got to say too. You notice there's people out there, they're saying, oh, the St. Paul Police Department started all this. You know what? That's fine and dandy. Let them start all of it. You know, that one rogue officer that disguised as a protester and to incite violence. It would have happened regardless. And if that's the case, that the government wants to do this to implement martial law, blah, 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 I don't care about those people because they wouldn't survive anyway. If you're that scared of FEMA camps and you're that scared of martial law, but you're going to turn around and role play like you're this patriotic hero who's going to don an assault rifle and start firing at the National Guard, then shut the fuck up. There ain't no place for you. And it don't matter anyway, because if they wanted to do that, and if there's right-wing groups infiltrating these protests or turning on the protests like those dickless Proud Boys like walk around in their Hawaiian shirts and their AR-15s, these dumb idiots just open a can of worms that they're not going to be able to close. Then you got Donald Trump going on the freaking media, going on Twitter, like always, not doing his freaking job at all, saying, oh, we're going to label Antifa a terrorist organization when the people who incited the riots in the first place weren't Antifa. They're actually more in the Donald Trump camp to begin with. How funny is that? And these freaking idiots, these freaking right-wingers that slurp down all that louder with Crowder BS propaganda, listen to Ben Shapiro fucking nasally windbag for 15, 25, 30 minutes about stupid shit, seem to think that Antifa's like Al-Qaeda or the Taliban, where this organized thing with some guy at the top, when they don't realize that Antifa's like a loose ragtag band of different far left groups that just band together. It's stupid. Everybody's out here for their own motives. We're going to label them a terrorist organization. You know who should be a terrorist organization? Neo-Nazis, Ku Klux Klan, that go out and join police departments. Hell, how many times have I made a video in the past 5 years about an unarmed black man getting shot? And nothing's changed. The only thing that's changed is that within about a decade of time, people are getting pissed off and they're looting and rioting and destroying cities across the world. And I can't blame them. And I hope Donald Trump's in there in the White House shitting bricks, because he's conducted this thing and he's guided us through this thing Piss poor. The government has failed us twice in 1 year. Not even 1 year. You got the Republicans up there denying all around hazard pay, denying extra stimulus checks in a time of crisis. They failed us on the pandemic, and they failed us in this instance. Because what did they do? What did they do in this instance? No one stepped out immediately and said, no, Derek Chauvin and these other officers, they need to get arrested. No. They just fired him, hoped for maybe a little demonstration, and this jackass would have lived the rest of his life. After killing at least 4 people, don't forget, he got in a police chase and caused the death of 3 different people, which from what I understand, if it's a dangerous thing, police don't usually pursue people. So there you go. The Trump administration, in his last term, has failed us tremendously in the last 6-7 months. Not even like 3 months, 4 months. I don't know. I think right now we're seeing the beginning of the end of the current status of this country. We, as the people, we have really, and I mean we have really sat through a bunch of bullshit in at least the last decade. All the government wants to do is send the National Guard in to take control of everything. And I'll say in the same thing, I understand that the state needs to roll in and take control back of everything. I understand that's going to be their first goal. But it wouldn't piss people off nearly as much if the president wasn't saying patently absurd things. And he was going on and talking about how he talked to the family of George Floyd, and then George Floyd's family goes, he was really standoffish with us and barely paid attention to us. What a travesty. I don't care. I'm not going to sit by and watch all these stupid, pussy-ass conservative Republicans going around and saying, well, what about the shops? Looters deserve to get shot. And here's some food for thought, too. Martin Luther King, generally peaceful guy, still got assassinated. There's no winning. You got to win by force, I guess, in these days. Getting so sick and tired of these bootlicker son of a bitches. Nothing that matches their ethos. And let's be honest, they're against it because it's black people. Let's think about it. White people get in riots because their baseball team loses. White people get armed to the hilt when they can't go to Chili's for fucking 6 weeks and yell at the waitress. Because their rights are being trampled. Your rights are being trampled. You are inconvenienced because of a global pandemic that was more than you. More than you. You want to talk about rights getting trampled? Think about all the minorities out there. Put their hands up and get shot 10 plus times in the body. No knock raids. Wrong house. Mom gets shot in the fucking face and they get arrested. Or what about that one girl that died when she got her fucking mugshot taken? Oh, but I can't go to Chili's for 6 weeks. I'm going to go to the state house with an assault rifle. And then I'm going to turn around, and when a member of their community gets killed, I'm going to tell them they're acting like buffoons. You know, I was watching something the other day. From an expat from a Soviet controlled Romania. And he said, you know, the propaganda from the old Soviet Union was just the same as it was in the United States. The only difference was behind closed doors. All of us in Romania were talking about how stupid and horrible the propaganda was. But you know what he said? He said the scary thing is that it seems to happen here. Happen well here with good effects and good results. Obviously, you can tell that with the amount of bootlicking pussies you see in your comment section or see on your friends list. And don't give me all that bullshit about all lives matter. Of course, all lives matter. No one's saying all lives don't matter. And can you really blame some black folks for being black supremacists when you grew up in a country where your great-great-grandparents were slaves and your great-grandparents had to be worried about lynching and were sharecroppers and your grandparents were protesting and were getting hosed down? You're worrying about your dad who's going to get shot by the police. You're worrying about yourself who's going to get shot by the police. Can you really blame them at that point? I don't think so. All lives matter. All lives matter. What a total cop out. Yeah, of course, all lives matter. Everybody's focusing on the black lives right now because those are the ones that have been systematically jailed. Those are the ones that get charged and arrested more often. Those are the ones that get killed more often. You know what they say in the statistics now? What a number one leading cause of death for a young black male is? A police officer. A police officer sworn to serve and protect. You know why people get so pissed off? Because a white guy that gets charged with double homicide gets handcuffed and put in a bulletproof vest and gets fucking Arby's when he gets arrested. A guy who did pretty much nothing wrong, selling cigarettes on the corner, gets choked out. Some guy who is just minding his business pretty much, or what would have otherwise been like a misdemeanor crime, gets pinned to the ground, puts a knee on his neck, and dies. That man was sitting there struggling for breath and calling out for his dead mom. So why don't you fuck off with that all lives matter shit? Because we all know all lives matter. But if you want to be an ally, it's Black Lives Matter or nothing. No one. And I'll tell you what, those same people that are saying all that mumbo jumbo bullshit are the same people that are mad because it's not catering to them anymore. I think there's genuinely some white people out there that are subconsciously pissed off because the world is not serving them. Their nation's not serving them anymore, and we're moving towards a direction where everybody's getting equal representation, whether by force, whether by legislation, whether by diplomacy. So you say, oh, all lives matter. Or you do the ultimate dick move and you say blue lives matter. Yeah. Propaganda seems to be working real well. Hang on. I got something in the chat. The only thing someone's saying, didn't Floyd shove a gun at a protest or at a woman's face, which the official statement says nothing like that. So I don't know where you're getting that, bud. This guy died because someone thought this guy was trying to bounce a check, a $20 check. So I don't know what right wing bullshit you've been watching. I don't know what shit you've been watching. But there is nothing as of yet that suggests that. All we know is that shortly after 8 p.m. on May 25th, Minneapolis Police Department officers responded to a forgery in progress on Chicago Avenue. Oh, wow. My metropolitan accent came out there. You can tell. You can tell I'm from the area. Avenue south in the Powderhorn neighborhood of Minneapolis, according to WCCO. The implication was that Floyd tried to use forged documents at a nearby deli, according to a co-owner of Cup Foods. Floyd attempted to use a $20 bill that a staff member identified as counterfeit, according to police. Floyd was in a nearby car, and it doesn't matter. You know, some people say, oh, well, he shouldn't have been doing nothing illegal. All he did was, you gonna die over $20? Do you think someone deserves to die over $20 fucking dollars? Are you out of your fucking mind? That's stupid. That's like a white kid going to Walmart, or a white guy going to Walmart and giving a counterfeit $20 bill, and they identify it as counterfeit before the guy gets out of the fucking parking lot, and the police beat the shit out of him and kill him. I'll tell you what. Nobody's gonna care. The general public's not gonna care until it's a white kid getting killed or a white guy getting killed. Then everybody's gonna say, "Oh, well, it was unnecessary. It was unnecessary force." Yeah. Whatever. I agree, but keep that view consistent, because I guarantee you, I'll be the first to say it. If you're not defending this guy and you defend a white guy that would have done the same thing or has done a similar situation, you're racist. I don't care. It took, let's see, this guy was pretty much living life for 4 fucking days. He got fired 26th to 28th. He pretty much just camped out at his house. And it was glorious to see all them protesters barricading his house, not letting him get food, and not even the delivery drivers were going to muscle through that crowd to give him the food, because it's condemnable. If the whole community is against this guy, it's a commendable action that this dude did. And I absolutely love that there's protests all around the United States for other people that died unjustly in their communities, as well as George Floyd. You know, I even remember that one case out of Texas where that police officer thought she was in her apartment and saw that dude eating ice cream on his couch and fucking smoked his ass. There was still people bootlicking in that situation. I'll tell you what it is. It's us against the police department and the bootlickers. That's what it is. Now you got the National Guard rolling in, making everybody sit in their house. Like I said, they're opening up a can of worms that they can't, And if they still get it, I hope to God, first and foremost, that this guy gets convicted. Because if it's not, they're going to burn that whole town to the ground all over again. And you and I both know that. And I guarantee, I'm not advocating any violence here, but I guarantee if people continue to be ignored, don't be surprised if people just start walking up to cops and shooting them. Because it'll get to that point if these same people who go around and say, looters get shot. When there's looting, there's shooting. And these people will continuously make excuses. And then they continuously get ignored. Then they're just going to start taking action against the police themselves. It's not going to matter at that point if you're a good cop. It's not going to matter at that point what you've done personally. Because it's going to get to a point where it gets so polarized, you can guarantee that shit's going to start happening. Drone 256 says, what situation is improved by looting and burning things? Well, the whole act of looting, burning, and all that, you've got to think that pretty much every other channel has been exhausted, even back in Ferguson. Because remember, we've been having riots since the 60s. Los Angeles, 1992. Nothing's changed. Black guy gets killed, the world moves on. Black guy gets killed, the world moves on. If anything, it's forcefully achieving your goal. And at that point, what situation got approved? The guy got arrested. Otherwise, that guy possibly would have been still a free man. Otherwise, people possibly would be taking this seriously. That's all I gotta say. Sometimes if you get ignored long enough, you're gonna have to take the matter in your own hand. That's why people burn shit. That's why people break shit. Because they're not being listened to. Their voice ain't being heard, and they're sick of it. And yeah, I feel bad. I really do feel bad for the small business owners that had to endure that. The best thing I could say to them is they got to arm themselves and don't let it fool you. So you don't advocate violence, but you see the benefits of it. I don't advocate violence towards anybody. All right. I'm not personally saying go out and kill people to achieve your goals. I'm just saying that's what's going to happen eventually down the line if you keep getting ignored. But I see how it would expedite a process to get so outraged that you're torching a whole community down. That's when people act, because people always act when it's too late. Sit on the sidewalk, picket signs. What, 2 days? You don't get anywhere with peace. Typically. Best thing they can do is arm themselves. There was people out there trying to sway people away from attacking the local businesses. Good on them. People came out and cleaned up their community. Good on them. Ain't nobody showing no photos of white people breaking down. I'm not saying it's a solution. I'm saying in times like this, sometimes you just have to do what you got to do. If you want to protect your livelihood, you got to do what you got to do. It's a fire you can't control. And that's what people did. You know, people armed themselves, they defended their own small shops and whatnot. At the end of the day, all I'm saying is it seemed like nothing got anywhere. In what, 60 something years by being peaceful. So I definitely understand people going around and ripping shit apart. Because if you ignore someone long enough, it's going to happen. Someone says, my friends and I are attempting to release the crimes of the officers. Their website was fucked recently. What do you mean fucked? Like hacked into, destroyed? I mean, we already got the whole dirt list on what's his name? Derek Chauvin. That's a pretty lengthy track record. And yeah, I mean, good cop, bad cop. Oh, there's good and bad apple. Well, you can't in no way be risking a bad apple in the police station. Look how quickly shit like this happens. I don't know. Better vetting process. I'm not an expert on that stuff, so it's not up to me to say the criteria. Yeah. Total was the other officer. He was that guy standing in front. I don't know if we got the other names of the other two men that were holding the George Floyd down or not. Yeah, of course. Of course, you know. And people like John 256, what's burning? You know, you got people on here that are like mega Tea Party, mega right wing. This country is born out of a 4% T tax. I think we got more than enough leverage. People got more than enough leverage to go ahead and start ripping shit up if people were killing each other over 4% on fucking tea. And that's the thing, too. Obviously, this nation isn't suiting the interest of everybody. And for the past 3 years, I've had to radically change my stances in just about everything I used to believe in. Because guess what? Yeah, black people are enraged. And yeah, everybody's hoping that one day they get the same benefits and freedoms and peace of mind as white people and all other minorities. But still, the core ruling class of this nation is wealthy white men. What is my favorite disinfectant? What's your view on the peaceful mall protest in NWI and the Chicago looters proceeding to come to that area and cause more problems? I don't have a problem. If there's people, look, there's probably organized efforts all over the board, to go out and cause problems elsewhere, if that's what you want to call it. I ain't got no problem if there's organized groups going out. Parents bringing their children to protests, that's a different thing. Keep the kids at home, put them at grandma's house or something. You know, that's not a place for a kid. As I was saying, though, this nation was founded. You couldn't even vote. You couldn't even vote at a certain point in time unless you were a 21-year-old white male with a certain amount of land and a certain amount of money. So you tell me who this country was built for. What you think, at least. And it's still that way. The best outcome we can hope for this is a radically changed America that suits the interest of everybody. Oh, what do you think people gravitate towards Antifa? It serves the interest of everybody. People get radicalized in times like this, when people are continuously ignored. Why do you think there's been a resurgence and a big popularity of socialist groups among the African American community? Because even in the Soviet Union, you look back and you had people not caring about things like someone's gender. And you can extend that further to race. Italians, Irish, the Germans, now the Mexicans, the Arabs, the Hindus. Different group of people get oppressed at a different time. The concept of white, it fits whatever narrative it needs to. So I don't get white nationalists, neo-Nazis and all that, because 100 years ago, Irish weren't white, Italians weren't white. Then they became white. Oh, but then in the 40s, you had the actual Nazis who were going around saying only the German stock is the tried and true peak white person. I tell you all right now, you were seeing the beginning of a change. Violent, non-violent, what happened? Everybody ideally like to see it through diplomatic process, but you can't. And you know why you can't? Because that same pre-existing core of people that rule this country are going to stifle you every way. Why do you think the communists would diplomatically take over Russia? There is a ruling caste in that system that will squash you at every turn. And there's no reason. I don't get why people get so pissed off about Mexicans. Mexicans don't even make up the majority of the illegal immigrants coming in here in the first place. They're Central Americans, they go through Mexico and they get here. Who fucking cares? They sit here and they do the jobs that nobody here wants to do anyways. Arabs, shame on a white person, shame on anybody who's going to go around and say, oh, they're all terrorists, oh, blah, blah, blah. You got people that fled from totalitarian regimes in Iran, in Iraq, Saudi Arabia, other places in the Middle East, from as far back as the 60s, and they come here. And then 9/11 happens, they're told to go home. What do you mean go home? This is their home. I don't even know what this B&B guy is talking about. Can you like? I'm sorry, but if you want to ask me a question, I can't really. I don't really understand what you're asking. I need to drink some water. I'm thirstier than a motherfucker. That's another thing we could talk about too. Oh, there's good and bad apples. Yeah. Bad apples go and kill someone. Good apples never say nothing about it because they're afraid of the whole police station going against them. Carl Wilhelm says, "Are you pro-separatism?" I don't know. What do you mean by separatist? Making a new nation? I don't really like nations to begin with, so I guess we want to dissolve a state or something. I guess, but I doubt I'm going to see that in my lifetime. But that's about utopia worldview. I understand that. I understand that. What was I going to say? State apparatus probably needs to exist in some facet because you look at libertarian socialists and you look at ANCAPs and their worldview and what their ideal policies are. There's no way in hell that that's going to go smooth without someone coming around and just sweeping that all up and ruling it. Am I optimistic about the future? Very optimistic about the future. That doesn't necessarily mean that I don't think there's going to be some dark times before we get to the light. But yes, I'm very optimistic about the future. I think every generation of people gets more tolerant of other people. Think about your parents. They're probably Gen X or baby boomers. They hate gay people. Our generation, for the most part, I think is probably more pro LGBT. I think we're less likely to be racist. I think we're less likely to be intolerant of people of other faiths or quote unquote exotic faiths or not Western faiths. Anyways, back to what I was going on about. So, what am I? You're new here. Well, welcome aboard. I'll tell you what, though. The more and more I grow, I used to be like a laissez-faire libertarian. I couldn't agree with it. So I started moving towards best I can say without giving myself a label as I'm in the libertarian left quadrant of the political compass. That's where I sit. That's the thing too. And it's marvelous. It's marvelous. It's wonderful that we got people in police departments marching with protesters. But shame on Minneapolis. Poor conduct. Piss poor conduct. And that's the thing too. Oh well, my dad's a cop and he's not. That very well may be true. You might have a relative who's a cop, who's a good guy, and who's really by the books, or really nice police officer, and that's true. But where are these nice police officers at? I hardly see them condemning bad apples. I was talking with American soldiers here in Iraq. They were saying we are not optimistic about the future because the United States, day after day, not economically viable because China. Well, hey, in terms of China and America, those are two kids that don't play fair on the playground with each other. And you know what? Same shit's happening. Same shit's happening over in China. Hong Kong protests. China literally just marched in the other day. I don't know if you all knew that. China just marched into Hong Kong, took the shit over, and they're planning to flood the streets with their secret police. You see the Uyghurs up in the northwest protesting. You got the situation in Tibet. You got the situation in Hong Kong. I'm sure plenty of other places. But I'll tell you what, it'll be way bloodier of a conflict out in China before it did here in the United States of America. I don't hate Chinese people. There's an increasing anti-Chinese sentiment here in the U.S. in the recent months. I don't hate Chinese people. I wouldn't study Chinese. But at the same time, I think we need to start realizing that governments of the world are a far different thing than people of the world. I've talked to Russians. I've talked to Chinese people. I've talked to places whose government would love to see the destruction of our nation. And you know what always is the common theme? I sat on the phone with the guy from East Ukraine for over 2 hours. Don't believe what the news tells you about us. That's the first thing I hear from everybody. Don't believe what the news tells you about us because it's just our governments. Our governments hate each other. Our peoples do not. So what? We covered the riots. We covered people who talked about Martin Luther King wouldn't like that. We talked about the situation. And I went off in a tangent. Yeah. Like I said, I'm optimistic about the future. But you don't make strides in progress throughout history unless there's a forceful change. So I understand. I completely understand. The looting, the rioting, the mass nationwide protests. And I guarantee you, these same people going around saying shit like, "Oh, well, there's no use looting and rioting and all this." They would have been loyalists in the Revolutionary War. You got those people. Yeah, biggest fucking paradox I've ever seen in my life. Don't tread on me, but you're gonna go around and bootleg. Hanging a Blue Lives Matter flag right next to an American flag. The fuck are you thinking? And I absolutely love the fact that places around the world are standing in solidarity with us. Those of us who see the injustice, those of you who are experiencing the injustice, for real. Anyways, I think I've said my piece. I'll be on here again if there's any updates. But until then, thank you all very much.